But one, UBOs, that is the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, an agency of the government which is charged with the duty to count, people. It did report, give a preliminary report on how many, on the outcomes of the 2024 National Population and Housing Census. Now, it was established that we stand at 45 point something million, away from 36. We've increased by 11.3 million. Since the last counting in 2014, Ugandans have increased by 11.3 million. Now, when we look at the statistics, in terms of percentage, it was also established that we have a very big percentage of Ugandans who are young. 50% of the Ugandans that were counted are below the age of 17. Is this something good or bad? Now, when we look at the demographics there, the statistics, you could also see that the females, of course, this is not a surprise, it has always been like this. The females are much as compared their counterparts, the males. Actually, by 1 million, they are more by million. Now, the children, you can see, and between 18 to 30, we are 20.7, and then the older persons stand at 5.0%, that is 60 and above. Now, the working age population, as you can see on the screen, we have 55.6%. These are the working age population, between 14 to 64. Now, some of the challenges that these people shared, we are going to be discussing them as we continue. I'm not alone in the studios. I've been joined by Mr. Otim Levi Akonapesa. He is a political analyst, not only a political but also policy analyst. And we are also going to be joined by another important person, and that is the PRO of the Uganda Bureau of Statistics. Good to have you, Mr. Otim. How are you doing?
Thank you very much. Good morning to the viewers. I'm happy to be here.
A pleasure to have you.
Under the invite of the BTM family. I will always show cause to share ideas.
It's always a pleasure to have you
how
here.
we can build our country.
Yes.
Yes.
Your reaction when you saw these numbers?
No, it was not a surprise because you see, we as a country been looking at how the population growth, and when you are to keenly observe, because there have been some hindrances or rather challenges on how the UBOs have been trying to gather information. And this particular population census was supposed to be held, I think, 1 year back or so, but they kept pushing it forward.
Now, it was that chapter 2014. The 2014 is then was delayed by 2 years.
By 2
because
years.
we were supposed to be counted in 2012.
Yes. So if you're to look at our population back then in 2014, I remember it was at 35 point something million people. And the growth, of course, of 11.3 shows the projection possibly of almost 50% from that time, over 2014. There's been a growth, I think growth of 2.9% on how, according to the categories of people. And then also the ratio of men to the female. Now, for this particular one, of course, I've seen the reactions from the head of state, the president, when he came out, and then he stated that it is a surprise. He had expected the projection to be possibly at 47 million. That is what has been or rather the limelight. But now, when you are to do an assessment, 45 million, and then also there are lots of people that already complained that the enumerators did not reach out to them.
Sure.
So there is a certain deficit that you see from the time when the population census started, and then there was an addition of another 10 days. I think there was a little bit of mix-up between the management at UBOs and the people that were carrying out the field work. Now,
the enumerators.
The enumerators, yes. Now, when you also go further, there is some play of numbers. The NRM finished their registration and they gathered up to around 18
million, which was refuted by some political actors?
Yes, refuted by some political actors, possibly of infiltration and something. Somewhere within, we're also seeing a likely figure of 18 point something, exactly what the NRM came about. And then
where have you said another 18 million?
No, there was a certain analysis, because when we were having a small, friendly talk with a few members, that was how they were assessing. But of course, back to us, of course, you get to understand that there are people who have been on ground, they have collected the data, and the only thing was that UBOs should have compared notes. We have the
wait a second. Yeah. UBOs should have compared notes with that.
UBOs should have compared notes with other government agencies that have database of people, like NIRA. NIRA has a likely figure of people that have been registered. Now, these are things that you're supposed to merge, because you cannot conflict with numbers. We need to be able to understand comprehensively the number of people that we have before then we begin deciding on human capital and development. Now, if you're to keenly look, you also have UNHCR that is in charge of refugees, and Uganda being a country that hosts possibly the highest number of refugees in Africa. We had expected the UBOs to have gotten in touch with the UNHCR, because if it is 1.4 million that was declared by the United Nations organization, then how come that we are declaring 780,000 refugees? So which means that there was rather a little bit of laxity in the way UBOs was running this through their coordination with the field officers that were collecting data. So I believe that there is something that is lacking, because
you're saying that the numbers of refugees reflected here contradict the numbers from the UNHCR.
Yes, UNHCR has 1 point something million people, because for them they always have to register and keep collecting this data, keep updating their database.
The refugees living in Uganda.
Refugees living in Uganda. We have the Bidi camp, we have Nachival, we have here down this way, the Congo. So we have lots of these camps.
And you're saying the numbers here reflected by the
numbers that UBOs came up with were 780,000 refugees. Now what UNHCR has is UNHCR, or rather UN has is 1.4.
Okay.
Likely almost entered 1.5 million people. So there is I rather state that there's a little bit of laxity in the way UBOs was trying to run this event, because I don't want to say this on national TV, but I had to wait for nearly 1 week to be counted.
Yep.
I had to wait for 1 week to be counted in my area where I stay.
But ultimately you got counted?
No, I did not.
If it was an accident?
The only thing I did was to possibly stop someone along the way, because they're not coming to my gate. I had to stop someone along the way. I say, I'm volunteer to come and count me. That was how I was counted. But otherwise, no, but that is it. There were a lot of complaints.
So wait, you're seeing an enumerator and the enumerator is just passing by?
Passing by, no, but not headed to my home. I stay in a different place, and I was in a different place. They had to stop and count me. I gave them my details.
Okay.
That is how I was counted. But I'm just trying to tell you that there are people that complain that we waited and we're not counted.
But as a researcher, you know that, of course, it's not that they had to count everybody. Of course, that is practically impossible. Of course,
you see,
to count everyone. In research, you do the sampling thing. You don't expect them to have counted every head. There's so many that have...
That's why I raised the point that you should have compared notes with the others that have proper database and they also have proper records. That's what UBOs is supposed to have done, because being a government entity should have patterned with those that are already...
If you could repeat some, I'm sorry to take it back, but now that...
No, like I stated that earlier, we had a little challenges. That the event, possibly 1 month training of the enumerators
Yes.
for 1 month or something was also not enough. Some of these enumerators did not know how to operate these gadgets in most of the areas. And then also, we have government agencies that have a database. They have been collecting information of people.
Yes.
We have the NIRAs, and then we also have other entities. So I think what UBOs should have done should have been a collective effort. Try and compare notes, and then also where they had to reach areas, they should have employed other means.
Okay.
But also the time frame they gave was very small. You cannot count the whole population of a country in less than 3 weeks.
Well, Tim, let me first of all come.
Yes.
The Senior Public Relations Officer, that is Mr. Okoth Dedekas, from the Uganda Bureau of Statistics. It's a huge pleasure to have you, sir. Good morning. Welcome to BTM TV.
Thank you, and thank you, viewers.
You're welcome. Carry on, Mr. Tim.
No, I think...
Our boss is listening to you.
No, UBOs has come, but also I don't want to preempt because I want to...
No, share your queries, because
Yes.
here you were. One, you are watering down the efforts.
Now, I'm not
of
watering down,
specific
but I'm just trying to
agency.
give you a view of what the populace outside there. So, because, you know, when you are sitting with people of different minds, you get different views.
Okay.
Now, my work is to share
So
what the
you
people...
are sharing with satisfaction. And one, it was on the number of refugees.
The number of
Two,
refugees.
You're also questioning the competence of the enumerators.
Yes, because they were trained for less than a month, and they are handling very, complex stations. Even the first initial stage when it began, there was an issue somewhere. You are seeing in most of the parts here where enumerators even almost wanted to put down the tools because they're not getting enough facilitation to go on the ground. Some of them were paid half, some of them were paid quarter. So all these things contribute to some of the effects possibly they faced in trying to gather data and gather this information.
Okay.
So when you see the president surprised that possibly we're looking at something beyond 45, he was projecting it at 47 million and it's getting 45. That is like a dissatisfaction of what possibly had expected.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Okoth,
Yes.
for starters, before you rebut what Tim is saying with this dissatisfaction, but for starters, people are watching you on TV for the first time since the UBOs released these preliminary results. What can you tell the viewers about these statistics that you shared?
Thank you very much.
Muwonge is my name. Muwonge.
Muwonge. Mr. Muwonge, thank you for moderating this session. And special thanks, first of all, goes to the entire population of our country that they actively embraced the census exercise and called us to actually count them for those whom we delayed to respond to them, like Mr. Tim is saying. They were calling and saying, where are you? I am here. This is my gate number. I think that is one spirit that for us we were actually shocked to witness, because in most of the government programs, people have always tried to shy away, shun it, and try to politicize it and say, those are government things. That to the extent that even when the PDM came, people were questioning what is the criteria of selecting the beneficiaries.
But from the people I interacted with,
and so many other
is that they wanted to put the blame on you, UBOs people, that you didn't do enough sensitization. People are raising some funny questions. Why am I being counted? Why ABCD?
I can tell you for a fact, the whole country knew that we're doing census. That's why they stayed home on Friday to wait to be counted. The only thing that the population did not appreciate was that this census, the counting was not for 1 day. It was not on a Friday. The counting was supposed to be there for 10 days. Now, but everyone, because they say, this actually, the public holiday, maybe we needed to have explained it better. That the public holiday was given to us by cabinet as a point of recall, that people would remember that on this day, we had what? We had the census.
Population is kick-starting.
But they forgot to tell that this exercise was going to go for 10 days. We did it 10 days, and even when we finished the 10 days, and we still had a population that had not been reached yet, households.
Sure.
We went to cabinet, cabinet gave us another 5 days, and we utilized it effectively.
Which 5 days?
Yes.
That was effective. You can put a star there because those 5 days, that extension,
Yes.
it is said that you are not facilitating the enumerators, which made them actually relax, and so they are not reaching out some other
Actually,
ways.
let me tell you, Mr. Muwonge, the extension was mainly for Kampala Metropolitan because we had gazetted Kampala Metropolitan as hard to access area.
Hard to access?
Yes, easy to reach, but hard to access.
How do you mean?
Because you go to a household, the gate is locked. You ring the bell, no one comes. You're forced to move to the next gate. You ring the bell, no one comes. So you can't access. The gated communities are so many in Kampala than in any other part of this country.
Okay.
So we had a challenge accessing them. Secondly, Kampala has so many single households. Now the single household, someone wakes up at 6 in the morning,
They leave
closes
their
their
home.
door, goes to factory in Namavi, goes to factory industrial area, comes back at 8 p.m. The enumerators have left the field. Calls you and says, now for mom back, it is 10 p.m. Because our numbers were there, so they could reach out to us. So the single households community was very hard for us to access them and the gated community.
Now, did you say extension payback? Did you list
Of course, yes,
say some results?
we did our best within that period. But even in the other 10 days, we really tried to do our best. Like now, Mr. Tim is saying that, you know, you had to stop an enumerator. In fact, that enumerator even made a mistake because we're supposed to pick Mr. Tim's geo-coordinate of his household. So that tomorrow, we can say that Mr. Tim's house is located at this point, because that was part of the purpose for this census, that every household can be easily allocated or located using the Google Map. Using the Google Map. Someone is calling an ambulance because there's a mother who's supposed to give birth. The ambulance doesn't need to start saying, so where do I branch from? Where do I turn? No, just read on the coordinate and locate the house. That's why we're trying to get like any other European country.
But I don't think the population also was sensitized particularly about that.
Now, Mr. Tim, when we're doing what we call mapping,
Yes.
the mapping exercise, where now we're locating households on the geo-coordinate or using the geo-coordinate, this is what we're telling people, that we should be able to pick your coordinate area, the coordinate of your household, or the coordinate of the institution, or the coordinate of this office, or the hospital, the church, and so on and so forth. Yes, the entire population may not have been, because you know we relied so much on radios and TVs, but also had community engagements. We also had religious meetings with the civil society, the religious leaders, the cultural institutions, and so on.
I want to point out something else to you before I forget. Another thing that made some people deliberately shun this exercise is that the kind of questions that were being asked, they found these questions kind of offending and they're so personal. I used to hear them say that, imagine someone asking you, how many times you access Kampala, how many times you do this? You know, they found the questions offensive and they were like, okay, I'm not engaging in this exercise.
Mr. Muwonge, let me tell you, a census is the only activity where we can have a benchmark of data and information. The rest of the surveys and so on will not give us the comprehensive kind of information that most of the team would love to use going forward for the next 10 years. Even if we did a survey after 5 years, we shall still always make reference to the census exercise and data. Now, the comprehensiveness of the questions that were included in the questionnaires, especially for households, was really too much, about 168 questions. Because we wanted, and these questions we generated after a lot of consultative meetings with various stakeholders, the politicians, the religious, the civil society, the community. What do you want to know about yourself?
So you sat together and then you agreed on what kind of questions to come.
Exactly. You saw some section of religious leaders saying the issue of born again. Who's a born again? You know?
Yes.
Some pastors came out and you know they're saying that this question is going to ensure that it will make our number less. And yet we are so many born again Christians in this country. But again, when you go and you ask yourself that born again, I thought every Christian is born again by the virtue of being baptized.
Yes.
So now, how is it? Are they now the Pentecostals So there were so many questions. But of course, to really try to ensure that we were capturing everyone's interest and not forgetting anybody, neither leaving anyone behind, we tried to ensure that the question was a bit more comprehensive. In fact, that questionnaire would take not less than 30 minutes to complete. Not less than. In fact, if any enumerator finished within 30 minutes, was making a mistake.
How long did it take you?
It took me less than 30 minutes.
Less than 30 minutes.
Yes, because some questions
Mr.
were...
Okay, now, Mr. Tim, also,
yes.
it depended on how many people you have in the household. The bigger the household number, the more time the question would take. The lesser, the shorter time.
Yes.
Now, you told him about something to do with enumerators complaining, and especially during the extension.
Yes, we are facilitating them.
We're not facilitating them. But what happened is that actually the enumerators in Greater Kampala were retrenched after the 10 days because that was their contract. Okay. And we had to do a redeployment. We redeployed a fresh team, to be specific, from the forces to ensure that a thorough work was done. Because we had also got an indication that some enumerators were just jumping households.
From the forces?
Yes. No. They had gotten information.
But what forces are you talking about?
Of course. You remember, we had enumerators from police, we had enumerators from prisons, we have enumerators from UPDF who were enumerating themselves in those gazetted areas. Because remember, we were counting people, even in the forces. And we had to train enumerators in prisons, police, and UPDF. And for them, they are done. But of course, you know how the forces work. The forces will give you what you want. You give them instruction, they follow the instruction. They don't live like us. We the civilians, we take things for granted.
I hope they are not doing it in uniforms.
No. You would have seen pictures. You're in the media.
We are talking about intimidating people. If I knew that I'm being interviewed
so we had to keep them within the fraternity of data collection. This was a data collection. We were not at a battlefield. Data collection.
Now, let's look at the statistics. You had some queries when you came in. Mr. Tim here.
Yes.
Was trying to,
the refugee numbers and payments of enumerators. Now, I want to put it clearly to my brother Otim, Mr. Otim, that UBOs is a national statistics office. And anyone to use data which is generated in Uganda should pick those figures from the Bureau. That's why when we had a challenge, when we said we talked of the going into the lower middle income status with World Bank, you saw those so many press conferences we had with that team.
Yes.
Because for them, their benchmark and the system they were using was different from what we're using, which I'll not explain today. Now, in the refugee camps, all the refugee camps, the BDBDs that Mr. Tim is talking about, nobody enumerated them apart from themselves. And we're working with the Ministry of Gender, Foreign Affairs, to ensure that they capture figures.
Disaster preparedness.
Disaster, disaster.
So we had to train people in the refugee camps. We trained them. We gave them the tablets, very good equipment, and told them capture data for every person in the camp. And that's the figure we got. So
got these figures from those ministries.
And that's the figure we got. Now, the figure that UN has, that is for UN. I don't know where they got it from.
Who's more accurate now here? Because
I don't know where they got it from.
Who should be more accurate?
No. But we're a national statistics office. The figure we have given to the president is 700,000. And to any policymaker and any user who want to use it. If some people have been lying, that's their problem.
No, I think that's why we go wrong.
Mr. Okoth, if you are to be asked, you as an individual, not as somebody who speaks for UBOs.
Yes.
If UBOs gave you figures, about the numbers of refugees, and UNHCR also gave you some figures, whom would you believe in the first place?
I would believe UBOs figures, because we're in charge of statistics in this country.
Not UNHCR, which is always with these people, taking care of them.
No. You see, let me tell you. I don't want to be so negative as such by the work methods of some individuals. I can tell you that people are already saying that in some areas we gave them fewer population. Do you know the implication it has? The implication is that the lesser number you have, the lesser resource allocation. Everyone is struggling to have bigger numbers.
Yes, even me in Teso.
Even my brother team in Teso will tell you that, you know, UBOs figures for Teso has dwindled.
I saw the massacre mayor also complaining about this figure.
Even the mayor will complain that the Kampala's figures is small. Because maybe the Lord Mayor expected us to have, you see now the figures 1.8 million.
But even us in Teso, we have been 2.5 for a very long time.
If this
so
is
I don't know whether we increased or decreased.
You get it?
Yes.
You get it. But you see,
Soroti City.
now,
That's quite a big number.
but now, Mr. Muwonge, look here.
Yes.
One critical thing that we fail to appreciate is this, is that data is a scientific measure and is done on certain principles. But you see, even me, as a person, if I have not gone through that scientific process, I would say that no, I think we are more than 50 people in this country. Like you see, the president said it. He said that hey, when Dr. Mukiza came to brief me, I thought that maybe we are 48 or 50, close to 50. You get it?
Yes.
But now, he has given us the figures.
46.
It is 46, about 46. So we must check this, because they are the ones who have done the analysis and collection.
So I think, UBOs, you must be prepared for many questions from the populace. People are not satisfied from all corners of the country.
We shall appreciate those questions because it makes us to grow stronger. You see, if you are never challenged, you think you have everything. But when the people challenge you, that's when you realize that, you know, even when a kid is starting to crawl, it will try to crawl, touches something and falls back. Now now you see, our parents used to, I am a parent, and from what I used to do when my kid wants to start crawling, I throw something ahead of the kid, so that now can try to what? So that's a challenge. So all of these questions will actually strengthen.
But UBOs has been here, Mr. Court.
Yes.
UBOs has been here for quite a long time.
25 years plus.
That's enough time for you to have gained enough experience. We expect zero room for errors. Okay, the room may be there, but small room for errors.
Mr. Muwonge, when I just entered the studio, you said that in any survey or census, there should be room for error, margin of error. 0.05 or something, 0.09.
But this margin was a little big.
From the questions we are hearing, people really...
And Mr. Tim, I can assure you that in this one, even when you look at, by UN standard, we have scored at 98%. Even in Tanzania, that is very good in this exercise, they release their preliminary results after 48 days.
Yeah, I saw you actually blowing your own trumpet here.
We have to blow it because
the success stories you shared,
if Mr. Tim doesn't blow it for us, we must first blow it and appreciate it.
I saw among the success stories you're sharing, you said you did this in a short period of time.
Yes, and you know why?
And also I saw you talk about the cost.
Mr. Muwonge, let me tell you, the reason why we did it within the shortest period of time is because of the strengthened capacity of, first of all, the human resource, but also most importantly, the technological approach to this data. The technological approach has been in the sense that someone is in Katakwe, but the data is transmitted here to the data processing center and is easily, the processing was ongoing. In fact, we had what we call a dashboard. Do you know why, Mr. Tim, I will keep challenging the population that we captured as many households as possible? We actually even identified more households while we were there in the field. Because for us, we had a dashboard. When we would look into the dashboard, we look at Soroti City. You would see that if there is a household not yet captured, according to the geo codes, it has a red sign. If it has captured, it shows you green. So we wanted to see green all over the country. That's when we would appreciate that we have captured what? All households. But there is red. So now, the few reds that we saw, this is what the ED presented during the launch, that we had issues with the gated communities. People could not allow us to access their gates. Then we had issues with the single household. Kampala has so many single household members.
You know, this being digitalized, we thought that the errors were going to be minimal. But yes. we are wondering why people are raising these questions. Paperless, digitalized, like you said, someone in Katakwi, they just then immediately get the data. So we expect there to be very, very little errors, but
they are very minimal.
The minimum.
It's very, very minimum.
And also look at the number of enumerators that you had here.
The 135,000.
That number, was it really effective?
It was.
Again, it's quite.
It was
not a small country.
Because now you see, Mr. Monge, let me tell you, before you allocate enumerators, you must know how many enumeration areas you have. And every enumerator is supposed to cover one enumeration area. Enumeration area could be like an LS1 area, but it depends on the number of households. For example, if you have more than 130 households, perhaps then you needed more than one enumerator to cover in 10 days. And that's what exactly we did. That before we actually got even to know how many enumerators we needed to first establish how many enumeration areas do we have in the whole country. And that's what guided us to come up now with the enumerators. Now,
and how do you arrive at the number of enumeration areas?
Now, enumeration areas, of course, this is what we call, now, I don't know how I should explain now, the mapping exercise. Now, the mapping, when you're mapping, that's the way now you're demarcating. For example, you're demarcating Kampala. Let me give an example of Kampala just here.
Okay.
And you know that Kampala Central starts from Old Kampala, stops at the traffic light of Ginger Road. When you get to know that it stops there, now, of course, we're doing this in collaboration with the Minister of Local Government. Now, when you get to know that it stops there, now it is your role to know how many households live within that area. When you establish the number of households, now it is the role of the Bureau to establish, okay, we have 5,000 households in this area. How do we now demarcate to make it easy to capture data? Because one enumerator cannot capture data in the whole of that area. So now you have to now redemarcate it and gazette it into what we call the EA, the enumeration area. And that's what we did. So that getting to know how many enumeration, we will do it during the mapping exercise, when we do the area demarcation, the boundary demarcation, and all that and so on.
Okay. Let's first take a break. When we come back, we are still sharing our insights into the preliminary report on the population census 2024 as was shared by Uganda Bureau of Statistics. We'll be right back. Don't go.
Discover delicacy at Cafe Atu, your all-in-one destination. Whether it's the perfect cup of coffee or a satisfying meal, we got you covered. Indulge your cravings with our mouth-watering pilau, savory katogo, crispy chips, and tender chicken. Explore our world of cocktails and fresh juices for a truly special treat. Planning an event? Choose Cafe Atu for top-notch outside catering services. Benefit from ample parking. Stay connected with Wi-Fi and catch your favorite matches on DSTV. Cafe Atu offers food deliveries in and around Kampala. Hosting a conference, our center accommodates up to 1,000 people. Need a boardroom for a party or corporate meeting? We've got just the spot for you. We offer a free venue for birthdays and baby showers, providing complimentary photography. For those aspiring to become professional baristas, our barista school awaits you. Visit us at Albany Center, Level 2 on Ginger Road. Cafe Atu, where every occasion becomes a memorable experience.
This Sunday on BTM.
Today we'll be discussing about modern generation where men and women are changing. Our men are looking at Instagram. Like seriously?
Women, we are moved by what we see.
Thank you. So when I'm dating, njagala meeting the ex. Abantu abagenda ku TikTok ne mutandiko tuwabula simanyi to keep a man. You do.
Kwano go gwagwawo zinabivako amanyi gampedde mu bannange abatali.
Sit back and relax with BTM Transform.
Uganda,
your #1 leading education newspaper, is back, bigger and better. With articles to fully suit the educational triangle from the government, schools and parents all over the country, aiming at answering the ever left out questions, not forgetting revision questions and answers set by experienced teachers to prepare students for their finals. The Learner newspaper is supplied to over 12,068 schools all over the country with affordable advertising rates. We offer many more services which include uniform and sweater tailoring, all with an aim of easing work for the education. Contact us on 0754 777 029 or 0774 621 539. Email us on info@lananews.com or visit our website at www.lananews.com. You can also visit our offices at City Center Complex, Room J15, 4th floor, along Loom Street. The Lana, prioritizing education.
Tubanjulira Destiny Productions kakafulu mu kukola TV shows, documentaries, obulango bwa TV ne radio, music videos, bakola videography ne photography, era balikodinga n'ennyimba, bakwata firimu, balina kamera ez'okupangisa, bateekerateekera emikolo, balina ebyuma bya disco ne public address system ne live band, kw'ossa n'okusomesa music mu ssomero lyabwe erya Destiny School of Music. Kale byonna bye weetaaga mu music ne video production bisange mu Destiny Productions. Ekkulambiro Kisaasi, essimu 0707 64 700 ne ku 0770 7 47 website www.destiny-studios.com, email destinyproductionsug@gmail.com. basange ne ku mikutu gimugatta bantu Facebook, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok ne ku YouTube, zonna teekamo Destiny Productions UG.
Or 0.5% of Uganda's population are between the age of 0 and 17 years. The youth stand at between 18 to 30, that is 22.7%, and those above 60 are 5.0%, and the working age population is 55.6%. Mr. Tim, take it up from now, those statistics.
No, you see, before I go further, let me just tap in one or two things that my brother raised on as far as this, the census was concerned. Of course, you see, when you have to look at the statistics already showing, you also find the kind of projection that the country should be facing. Last time when I was, I think, interfacing with the government spokesperson, the population is young. 70-something% of the population is below 30 years of age. Now you imagine the country that we are in has a leadership that is above 50%. I mean, that is above 50 years of age, and you're supposed to plan for a young population. So the young population, we had already discussed that. You see, there are certain activities that we have to put into consideration when you are looking at a young population. First of all, when you have to look at China. China is a country that has built a very formidable young generation into being an entrepreneur, kind of, platform. Most of them are innovative. Most of them are people that look at the current trends, that's technology and so on. When you have to do the assessment of those that are 30 years and above, of course, you also find that they also sit within the 10 to 15%. I think that is how it is. But all this, if you're to do, because I don't want to go political, my brother here might not might not be diverted to that. But then
must be excited about
yes, let's look at what he was trying to to do. He has broken down for us to understand clearly on most of these programs. But also you also have to accept that there were a lot of challenges that hindered you people. The people that were trying to get data from the sides of from the island, we had the enumerators who were swimming to go and collect data because they failed to facilitate these people to access those points. What the enumerators that jumped in the water to access platforms in the island. We had the enumerators that even reached at using their own money, transport money. And up to now, they complain from within the people that they have never been paid up to today. So we don't want another scenario of 2014 happening, where people did the work and then government failed to pay them.
Super protesting. This time around there was some kind of.
No, people, right now, everybody fears to go to the street because you know what will happen. You know what will happen. If you go to the street that you are protesting over something, you know what will happen.
Sure.
So, rather, it is a humble appeal to my brother here plus the UBOs Senior PRO.
And I remember the UBOs director coming out saying that immediately the exercise comes to an end, we are going to wire your money.
Yes. So wiring money, this is 130-something thousand people can easily be handled. They can pick hard cash or rather give money to MTN and wire to these people because these are people that are living, on a minimal earnings to survive. And for the fact that they came and helped and they showed patriotism by collecting data for an institute or for us as government to be able to handle initiatives or future agenda or programs for the wananchi or for the citizens. It is something that is very tremendous.
Court first address that issue of the facilitation of.
Yes, they need to. He needs
to. Still have a lot of things to talk about here, especially about the statistics. But the issue of numerators. That even we have, it's unfortunate we had some people who passed on, somewhere along the exercise.
Yes.
I don't know whether it was work hazards.
Work hazards. And there's a person, and also before you answer, the person who almost, I think, ran mental here in Ginger here. I want my brother to answer that. They ran, and they said that possibly because of the stress of the work that she was involved in, I don't know whether there was also rather something that was projected towards sensitizing people on the hazards that we're going to face when handling this information. So a group which is
working on empty stomachs,
yes,
walking for long distances. Mr. Okoth, address it. How would they come up with correct figures?
Mr. Muwonge,
yes, please.
I want to start with the word my brother Otim has used, patriotism. That is a very, very important aspect, and is something that some parts of the citizens are still lacking. In Tanzania, when they were doing their census, enumerators were not paid any money. The country mobilized itself, and people were there, just there to provide free service and collect data. For us, in our case in this country, you don't speak of any work without pay. You must pay. That's why you saw some of the enumerators on the day when the exercise was about to start, they were yelling, saying, we have not gotten our training allowance, we have not gotten our transport allowance, and so on and so forth.
And they destroyed our material.
And they destroyed some materials because of lack of patriotism, but also because we are not ideologically oriented to appreciate that we must work.
Let's be realistic here. Really, you want someone to walk that distance without a single person?
You see, Mr. Mungi is still emphasizing. I'm speaking about patriotism. He's saying that no, you want someone to walk, and I'm giving him an example that in Tanzania, people walked and did it for free.
But I think there was some bit of facilitation.
Now for us, we opened out and say, you do the training, 90K for you. You've completed the exercise, hand over government property, 500,000 in a space of 2 weeks, 14 days. Actually, it was 10 days.
Which has not yet come through.
No. Let me tell you something. Over 95% of enumerators have already gotten their payments. The few isolated cases is generating because of the delay to clear those names, and because who to clear? The city clerks, division clerks, the chief administrative officers of districts, and because some of them did not have their names registered, their phone numbers registered in their names, so they had to change. When they were applying, they used numbers in the different name, but now I'm a different person. Now the eCash system, which we are using, and we decided to use eCash to avoid third parties, because we know that somewhere in the middle, the old 500,000 may not have reached, because of the way people operate. So we say, no, we shall pay the person who did work direct in his or her phone. Now, Mr. Muwonge, when maybe your mobile number may not be in your phone, by the way, in your full name.
It is.
It is. Now for you.
Try sending 100,000.
And I tested it. But now, so many, quite a number of people, they buy cards using other people's national ID and so on and so forth. So those are the people who had a bit of challenge. But it has been addressed, and I can tell you maybe next week, all of them will be smiling. They will be smiling, yes, including other government servants at the district who really supported the census.
Okay.
Then also
what about
the guides?
Of people who passed on in the line of duty?
Yes.
Of course.
Any special compensation?
As an institution, we continue to condole with those families, and we responded based on our HR policy. We responded and provided the necessary support during that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, going back to the statistics here, these people have seen, like I was telling you about the mayor of Masaka, who was saying, no, she's not satisfied with the numbers you're talking about. Masaka is a city that, attracts big numbers of people on a daily basis. How could you say that it is standing where it stands in terms of number?
Mr. Muwonge, I will continue to challenge you that this is a scientific measure. We cannot begin looking at things using our physical eyes. It's like you trying to claim that you have malaria before you even tested. Just because you have temperature.
You need to be diagnosed first.
Just simply because you have temperature. What if you reach, then they put this thermometer and what? They take off some blood, you have typhoid. But still it brought some signs of and symptoms of fever, malaria. So we have proved and tested our population. We have counted them. We have counted our households. Let us learn to appreciate that a scientific methodology of doing things is different from theories.
That's why I said you have a lot of explanation to do.
Yes.
And interestingly, the people who are raising these questions are people who went to school. I'm just asking questions on behalf of them. I told the leaders, Mayor of Masaka and so many other leaders, especially for the opposition.
But another thing, Mr. Muwonge, what I want to tell you is this. I want our citizens to disassociate themselves from politicizing data. When data is produced for everybody. The religious leaders use it to know how many Protestants there are in this country, how many Catholics there are, how many Pentecostals, how many Seventh Day, how many whatever. The cultural institutions, this time we are capturing information on culture and clan. I can tell you we shall know how many subscribe to Mamba, how many subscribe to Ngabi, how many subscribe to Mpindi, and so on and so forth at the end of the day. So, it is unfortunate, it will actually be unfortunate if anybody wanted to politicize that and begin to look at this report as something that we needed to just estimate.
Well, Tim is one of those people who believe that this is influenced by politics. And here, before you came in, he was taking us back on when NRM came out and established the number of its subscribers, 80 million. And then he was saying that there's some bit of connection. Please, he's here. Say what you're saying.
Yeah, there was some bits of analysis that we know when we're having friendly chats with these people that possibly also subscribe to the government. There was a scenario where we were trying to discuss and raise an issue where we have an inflation. NRM came up with 18 point something. We're also seeing it as part of UBOs' statistics. So
where is that reflected? Here?
Now, it's not reflected, but there was someone who was trying to do inline assessment, And I was really, you know, when you are assessing and analyzing the things, there's a way you get information. And some of this information, of course, you know, if it is taken by the public, then it affects the image of the institution of UBOs. So when the information came, and of course, now that you are here, you acknowledge that there was some level of possibly merging some information, I mean data, like I had spoken, the stakeholders, that we have NRM that went on ground and registered their members, and we saw them collecting 18 point something million people. Then also we're seeing UBOs also. It was all over social media, and it was, I think, even shared by this man, the Romashana man or something. So you as the UBOs, when that information comes, it shows an image that possibly you people had borrowed an idea from this to try and counter and cover.
That's a big allegation.
Since we also saw a lot of challenges that you faced when you were collecting data. Now, coming up with a figure of 45.9 million, and then also doing a summary, of course everybody will doubt if UBOs really came up with this information. Yes.
Sokoth.
Yes.
You've heard Tim's allegation, and it tells you that he's not the only one who has that conviction.
You know, my brother Tim is a political analyst. And you know, when you're a political analyst, you have, first of all, the freedom to share in your opinion, which I'm glad is doing it very well. But as UBOs, we have a mandate to collect, analyze, produce, and disseminate statistical information and data to support government planning, policy formulation, and evidence-based decision making. That is our core function as given by the Act of Parliament. Now, I do not want to associate the work which is given by mandate to only political affiliation. We don't produce data for NRM, neither FDC, nor ODP, or UPC, whichever. No. If they want to use the statistics, they will find it as general, as done professionally by all international statistical standards, and therefore it is to liberty to them to apply it the way they want to use it. When NRM was doing their, what was it called? Registration.
Because you see registration. Because, yeah, as you're speaking,
yes,
the analysis was that in April 2024, NRM alone during the registration exercise registered 18.3 million people. So if we have a population of 45.9 million being counted, we also have 59% of that population being below 17 years. And then meaning that we have 18.6 million adults, inclusive of the refugees. And also the resident foreigners. Those have also not been sidelined. Visitors and then tourists. Meaning that 98.3% of the adults that were counted during the census are NRM members. Now that is the projection of some of these people. And that pulled the debate. That pulled the debate.
No.
Because it is going to affect. It's going to.
Why are bringing it when they do?
No, it would have. It would have.
Asking people their political affiliation.
Yes.
How would UBOs know that this people subscribe to NRM, this people subscribe to FDC?
Of course, now you see the reasoning of the people outside there are trying to connect the data that was collected. Also factoring that the ones that are below 17 are taking over 59%. NRM did their data collection and they got 18 point something million people. So the ones that they are presuming, of course, now you see these debates at times startle and look at how they can affect possibly something that was genuinely done.
Can we call NRM's exercise collecting data? These are people registered people's names. Edirisa Muwonge, Otim Levy, Okoti Dedeka.
That's a collection, because you see, by the time they come to Otim, and I'm pinning there my NIN number. Don't mind about it, because the NIN number will betray you. By the time they enter it in the database, it brings all your information. Am I lying?
Mr. Tim.
Doesn't lie.
Mr.
So
Tim.
now, I just want UBOs to distance from such information. It retains the image.
But let me tell you something.
Okay.
Because that has been the talk of most of the,
Let me tell my brother Tim something. The president was the chief guest at the launch of the census results. That is important. The reason is the fountain of honor, and if it is a program of national importance, it is very good for him to be present.
Sure.
We appreciate his presence at the event.
It.
Secondly, it is very good that now people are using data to generate debates, because that is the usability of statistics. And that is how a country which is developing should operate. And you see, for people now to come up and generate their opinions and ideas out of this data, it creates interesting discussion. And I'm very happy with my brother Tim presenting that.
But it also affects.
But then they should. It should not only be unfortunate for them to associate that opinion with trying to say that this was targeted for this purpose. Reason is, we live by principles. The principles of statistics is different from any principle of any political party in this country. Very different. So they are free to generate their ideas, use the statistics to create debates. In fact, we want to continue challenging the politicians. You see, politicians wake up, they go to discuss a topic on TV like this or radio. Guy is giving figures, you ask him, where did you find it from? Where did you get this from? He can't tell you. UBOs is here presenting you facts. These are facts. I keep on repeating with the same word, scientific evidence. If you're generating your discussion based on evidence, you become authentic in nature. Other than discussing issues by way of thinking, my mother used to do it this way and my grandmother, and so maybe I think it is still the same way. No. As the country, as the world is developing, the world is becoming more scientific than theoretical. And you are seeing this in China, you're seeing it in India, you're seeing it in all these other European countries, and some parts of Africa. In Uganda, there is a government policy which I know my brother analyst is aware of, the STEM policy: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. That's where we are going. Now imagine you are striding to achieve the scientific and technological development, but you see you're operating like someone who's, I'm a good Christian and I believe in God, but you cannot put everything in terms of theology. God created science, gave us the science, and gave us the opportunity to utilize it. We must utilize the science to change the world.
Okay, I'm interested in, because this was the first time we are having a paperless population census.
Yes, it is.
Take us through its efficiency. How efficient has it been as compared to it?
Also discussion that some areas were much, there was a very poor internet,
Yes, those are some of the things I want him to address.
Yes, and poor internet.
To learn how
just for the benefit of this debate, and to those who are viewing us, this was the 11th census since 1911. This was the 6th post-independence census. But this was the first digital census. And this sets a record in terms of how technology can improve on productivity of an exercise. That's why you see in a space of 1 month, we are able to share preliminary findings. In a space of 3 months, we are going to be giving provisional results with more detailed information. And in a space of 6 months, final report.
That's effectiveness.
Let me remind you, in 2014 census, we collected data in 2014, August. The report came out in 2016 March.
I remember. It took
You see how disappointing that was?
Yes.
Now, even for the user to pick courage to use the data, we'll start thinking, but the data is already old, 2 years old. You're just releasing the figures. So the rate of efficiency that this digital technology has given us was, first of all, accuracy in terms of content, because we're not translating, transcribing from paper to computer. No. So that one was minimized already. We're entering right from the field. Mr. Tim is the head of this household. His educational level is this. He has this number of children. His children, has attained this level of education.
As they enter it there you get
direct. Are you getting it? Now, in a situation whereby my brother analyst is saying that some areas had no internet capacity.
Isn't that true?
It is true, and it was one of the challenges. And what we're doing was this, to encourage them that after they have captured the information, they move to area where, because normally in most centers, you find that there is power, but there's also internet access. Now you send the information, it comes to the data center. And that's how we manage to make it very effective. But also, the team of technology developed what they call iCloud, which was to do with data security and protection, to ensure the safety of this transmission. And that's why you have not heard of any cyber crime as related to the statistical findings. Our data is safe, it is highly protected, and what we are giving to the population is unaggregated data. You know, one of the issues that people were trying to share away from the exercise, especially before we started, they were saying that, now you're going to publish information about me as Mr. Koth. No! The information about Okoth,
my enemy might use that information.
And my enemies will use it against me. Then URA will come.
This man has those issues. This man has this.
URA will come.
You
get it?
Yes.
But you know, that is not how statistics is delivered. Statistics is delivered in a comprehensive, aggregated
so no individual can access that information.
When we are talking about the children aged 0 to 17 years, we are not saying that Mr. Tim has 2 children. Who are below 17 years.
And
we are not saying Mr. Muwonge. We are not saying that Mr. Muwonge has a son who has just been born. No, we put all this together and give the general feel.
So you're saying no individual,
no individual information. By the way, you can't even access it at individual level. And also any worker who was involved in data collection.
They took an oath.
Took an oath. And by the way, it becomes a very serious crime if you ever disclosed any information on any individual household. You are, I think, liable for 6 years in prison or something.
Is that provided anyway?
It is in our word.
It's a policy under data.
Yes, in that act.
The private data privacy and management bill.
Yes, but even the Statistical Act.
Yes, say law now.
You get it? So our data is safe, individual information is safe, and highly protected.
Okay. Also, among the other success stories I saw here, Caesar's cost per capita was 1.9 as compared to Kenya's $2.
Yes.
Okay.
That means that our cost of operating during census exercise was far cheaper. It was more of a saving to the government. Because if we wanted to compare with our counterparts across the East Africa, you'll actually find that we were the cheapest in terms of cost of, and that cost does not, it means that, you know, it includes the payment to the enumerator, feeding, the training, you know, purchase of a tablet, everything. That's what it means.
Another concern some Ugandans have, where are you now taking these gadgets that cost us our money?
Fine. First of all, we must appreciate the government, that through the local taxes and so on and all the resources available, they apportioned resources to do the census. We bought 120,000 tablets. Some are rugged tablets, some are ordinary tablets. Now, the rugged tablets are actually going to support the Electoral Commission during the election processes. Part of the tablets is also going to be given.
Wait a second, Mr. Koth. You're saying we bought
20,000 tablets.
Mr. Tim, remind me, how many districts do you have now?
We have 146,
146.
including the cities.
So there are some districts which never had a tablet.
We have 146 districts, but we bought 120,000 tablets. Yes. So some are going to EC, some are going to NIRA, but also we are going to live with the local government to help in capturing daily community information. Yeah.
All right.
And that, of course, it is a plus, first of all, to UBOs, but also even to the government, that you will continuously have reliable information.
Okay.
You not be, using data which is so old as such. We shall continuously have updated information.
Mr. Tim, I want you to wear your political specs now.
Yes.
And share with me your perspective from what UBOs has now shared with us in terms of demographics. Having such a big percentage, of such a young age, how should the government react to this? If you are a leader in this country, you're the president, and then you saw this, how would you now want to steer your country, against the background of, now the kind of people you're ruling, in terms of age?
You see, it has become a very big challenge at the moment when you do the assessment. And I think, when UBOs was launching this, I was keenly paying attention because I wanted to know particularly what was up. But then, you see, when you are to look at this assessment, you also find that the percentage of people below 30 years of age, that is they call it the most productive age, the youth population, standing at 73%. Of course, it is now upon government to see how we can change strategy on handling a young population. A young population.
There is one leader I know. Why I asked that? There's one leader I know, an opposition leader.
Yes.
To be specific, the leader of the national platform has always, talked about this, and for him, he thinks that this is going to work to his advantage. I know he subscribed to the NRM, and the opposition believe that their biggest follower, their majority of their followers are actually young people, and yet it is being established by UBOs that the biggest percentage, are young people.
Of course, you see, it's not a lie. It's not a lie that the youngest population possibly subscribed to one of the opposition political parties. That has been seen. And when you have to look at NRM has been more of a party that has people that are reasonably of age and experience. And then it has been serving, they call it the third floor, fourth floor, and fifth floor onwards. So that category of people is what NRM has been relying, and possibly also leaving out the close touch of the young population, the ones that are below 30. Now, the ones that are below 30 are very good when it comes to issues of technology and anything to do with technological aspect has always been reserved and attributed to the young ones. They're the ones that are so much into these platforms of TikTok, the X apps, and then Facebook and so on. Now, there is the way these people have categorically tried to influence the young population into believing in an agenda and trying to brainwash them. Last time when I was speaking to one of my colleagues and a very close friend in a national secretariat, Patriotism Corps, I told him that likely I've tried to observe a challenge, or there's something that might pose a challenge to the country. One is that there is a lot of negativity being portrayed through the social media platforms of Uganda. And when you see people try to reason, rather try, when government programs are, posted across, or rather, like my brother mentioned about PDM. Let me use an example of PDM. There was a lot of negativity. There was a lot of negativity that was attributed to it. Say, how is it going to help us, who are young people? This is just wasting taxpayers' money and so on. So I discussed with him and told him, you see, the approach we should use should be the approach that China is using. It has factored patriotism in different categories within the young population. We have those that are below grade 9, or rather they factor them from primary to secondary to university. Now, if primary, if you're to get down with the Form 7, or rather the highest level of primary, they suggested that they should do, rather be put into there should be compulsory patriotism, training and skilling. Now, the patriotism also should cover the issue of having vocational and practical skilling for these particular children. And never underestimate the child. You see, African setting has it that children should not learn certain things. Let the child explore. That is how we become innovative. And that's why you are seeing China has young, young children that are very innovative. Creating phones, creating what? Some of them are very innovative. When you come to secondary should be cut into two categories. You have the O-level and then you have the A-level. A-level that is advancing into university. Should have a different, classical set of how they should be oriented. Then we have university. Nigeria has it that when you complete university, you serve 1 year. It's compulsory, 1 year national service in different dockets. And that's why you see internship and so on. But you should categorize it that every person that has graduated should serve 1 year of national service before you can then join the job market, or you can go to private sector. The public or private sector.
Even Tanzania.
Yeah, even Tanzania has it. Now, with this information that is being collected, and I want to give credit to UBOs for giving us this data, because now at least you speak on an open, or frontal side of the information. That we have a young population that needs to be mentored, that needs to be oriented to understand the dynamics of how government should run.
As the government plans, now that they know the percentage of the population we have in terms of demographics, how are they now going to plan for this population?
No, of course, you see,
let's discuss that after this break.
They are already, okay.
Let's first take a breather. When we come back, including Mr. Okothi is going to be telling us, because among the campaign programs, when they were calling upon people to be counted, they were telling them that we cannot plan for you unless we know how many you are. So Ugandan out there is curious, okay, now that you know how many we are, how are you planning for us? Shall I discuss this after this break? Bring up.
Get ready for the housing revolution. Introducing SEFA, the self-empowerment program for housing Africans, exclusively on BTM TV every Saturday at 5 p.m. Witness the magic unfold as GGA Company Limited brings you quality, affordable homes built in just 30 days. For only 14.5 million Uganda shillings over 5 years, you can now own your dream home. Don't miss this chance to break free from renting and step into home ownership. SEFA is more than a show. It's an opportunity to transform lives. Join us for an unforgettable journey of empowerment and home ownership. Saturdays at 5 p.m. only on BTM TV.
Sit back and relax with BTM. We transform.
Tukwaniriza ku Spurs Tours and Travel. Oyagala visa oba bagikuma jangu tugikugobereko okukosa ne passport tukugobera ne air ticket bwandijeetaaze tukufunira emirimu mu Uganda ne Canada tulambuza abachakalira mu nsi z'ebweru ne mu Uganda ne tubabuukingira nawo okusula tuyina emmotoka ezirambuza ez'emikolo ng'embaga n'eziwerekera abakungu tupikinga n'abandyetaaze okutambuza okuva ku airport tusange ku Access Building Rubaga Road Level 1 Room 515 oba tukubireko
this Sunday on BTM.
Today we'll be discussing about modern dating in a direction where men and women are changing.
Our men are looking at Instagram girls.
Like, seriously?
Women, we are moved by what we see.
Thank you. So when I'm dating, njagala meeting ne ex wo. Bana abantu abagenda ku TikTok ne mulutandiko tuwabula simanyi to keep a man. You do this. You need to do.
Mukwano go gwagwawo zinalivaako amanyi gampeddemu bannange abatali.
Sit back and relax with BTM. We transform.
Aerotech Tours and Travel Limited kye kitongole ekyakakasibwa okusaabaza abantu mu nsi ez'enjawulo omuli USA, Canada n'endala nnyingi nga tukola ne ku visa services nga employment visa, business visa, permanent residence, saako air ticketing era tukuyambako ku paperwork eyeetagisibwa mu kutambula. Tulina tour packages eri aba honeymoon, school tours ne group tours. Bw'osasulako ebitundu 5 ku 10 tukuyambako n'ogenda ebweru ezisigadde n'ozisasula ng'otuuse. Eri gwe ayagala okugenda okukolera ebweru tukufunira omulimu mu nsi ez'enjawulo. Tulina emmotoka ezitwala abantu ku airport ate n'okubajjayo nga bavudde ebweru w'eggwanga tusangibwa Kampala Road ku Damaniko Plaza. Okumanya ebisingawo kuba ku nnamba zaffe ezowammanga.
tubanjulira Destiny Productions kakafulu mu kukola TV shows, documentaries, obulango bwa TV ne radio, music videos, bakola videography ne photography era balikodinga n'ennyimba, bakwata firimu, balina kamera ez'okupangisa, bateekerateekera emikolo, balina ebyuma bya disco ne public address system ne live band kw'ossa n'okusomesa music mu ssomero lyabwe erya Destiny School of Music. Kale byonna bye weetaaga mu music ne video production bisange mu Destiny Productions. Ekkulambiro Kisaasi, essimu 0707 64 700 ne ku 0770 747 58. Website www.destiny-studios.com. Email destinyproductionsug@gmail.com. Basange ne ku mikutu gimugatta bantu Facebook, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok ne ku YouTube. Zonna teekamo Destiny Productions UG.
Straight to you from Kampala Road here in Toban Center, where we are based. You're watching the dialogue. My name is Edirisa muwonge. Here with my panelists, Tim Levy Akona Peso. He's a political analyst and policy analyst as well. And also have Mr. Okoth Dekes. He is the PRO in the UBOs, right?
Yes.
Well, before we took a break, I don't know who's going to address this first. Ugandans, when you are enticing them to engage in this exercise, you always told them, please, just like your father cannot plan well in your home unless he knows your number, also the government can't. So for that matter, be counted so that we can plan for effectively. Now we know how many we are. How are we planning for these people? Mr. Okoth, you are the government that I have on this panel now. Yes.
Thank you. I'm the government, but yes. I work for Uganda Bureau of Statistics.
Which is government?
Which is government.
Yes.
And I would only challenge the process or credit it based on statistical principles. Now, if you have a young population below 17 years at 50% of the total population, that means that you have a very high dependency ratio.
Sure.
Miso team now has to feed many children than those children being productive.
So, just a second, allow me to intercept you, or intervene rather. Among the ones we are talking about here, does it also include the floating population? Because that is another big concern. I forgot to ask you earlier. The floating, what you termed as floating
floating, these were people who were captured, the street children.
Yes.
And so
you also realize that most of those people actually fall in that bracket.
Now they fall in the age group of 0 to 17 years. Now
discount.
that means that the government has a lot to spend on these people. But even the few people who are productive, the 30 years who are productive, they have the mandate to spend on the 50%. Now that affects us in a way of development. Because if you have a higher population who are eating and not contributing to anything, that means that we have a lot to do. But for me, that is for policy analysts like Mr. Tim, but I'm giving you just a brief of my opinion as a person. That you have more to feed than for them to make a contribution to the economy, because they don't pay taxes, they don't buy food, they don't spend. Are you getting me?
Are you seeing the production rate in this country going down?
I don't know. Because it will go down or high. I don't know, because I'm not an economist.
Mr. Tim will tell us.
Mr. Tim will tell us. But there is now a sense for us to wake up as government, for us to provide the figures, and as all players in ensuring the development of our country, to see that we really bridge the gap and see how to manage. How do we deliver citizens who are well upright, who know what they want, who are well focused, well aligned, they are patriotic in nature, that even these young children, in as much as the older person will be spending on them, what can they do? Can they be creative, like Mr. Tim was saying? Can they, can they think? Can they become more sophisticated with technology? Because children are great thinkers, by the way. They think.
That's true.
Yes. So that's how, now we need to do a lot of education, civil education to our young population. For them to appreciate that you are youth, yes, but you can still be productive. You can still make any contribution. That's what we need to do.
Mr. Tim, you've always known my concern about especially the street children.
Yes.
The UBOs here termed them as floating population. They also provided 4 in this exercise, 2024 population and national housing population census. And now the numbers have been established, such a big percentage being below. A country whose president calls upon its citizens to consider engaging in production. Please produce, other than bring in, these are used products. Engage in production. How are you going to engage in production? The biggest percentage of population is below the working age.
Thank you very much. You see, like I was stating earlier, before we went in for the break, about orienting these young populations in the aspect of technology and then innovation. We have seen countries that have literally been lifted from these kinds of programs, or other, government programs. Now, currently the programs we have running are the ones that were initiated possibly for the other percentage. They call them 30%. That should be from 30 years of age onwards, or rather let's cut from 25 onwards. Anyone that can rather be innovative in how they run, these systems. Now they're seeing that they also looking at the factor of the elite population. How many of our own people are equipped education-wise? And not only education, how many of them have gone through the skilling processes to be able to help government in trying to generate revenue and then also trying to develop their communities. Now, the only thing I say is that government already has programs that are running. We have the PDMs, we have the MIOGAs, and then more that are yet to come. I think 2 or more that have already been in the pipeline for our own citizens. But I think the biggest conception right now, since we have the Vision 2040, Vision 2040 has been factored in phases. We have the NDP 1, NDP 2 that got done. Now I think we're in NDP 4. NDP 3. NDP 3 is also expiring.
We're going into the fourth.
Now we're going into the 4th one. Now, from 1 up to 3, how many initiatives has government come up with, and what has been the score line or the score of these initiatives that were, formulated by government? And then before we go to 4, how instrumental are 3, NDP3 been? Because you see, we have impactful, yes, to the community. So we have to be asking you. We have to weigh all this. Of course, you see, whatever that we have come up with, OWC, Myoga, and then PDM. There have been quite a number of ratings that has been caused, and there's money that has been allocated, and more money is being allocated. I think in this very budget, the one that we're counting, there was a 1 point something trillion that is going towards PDM. That's the new one. Now, for us as a country, and then the government has to emphasize that more people are, initiated into these government programs. And it should not be sectored on only particular people. Let it cut across. Let it be entailed on manufacturing and industrialization and then value addition that government has been talking about. We also have commercialized agriculture. The government of Uganda, or rather Uganda as a country, has been pulling its revenue from commercialized agriculture, from agriculture as a sector. Now, how can government partner with private sector to make sure that we have more people that are engaged into manufacturing and industrialization? We have a big market. We have a big market here right now. We have 45 million people. Of course, not factoring in the 50% that is below that you are cutting from 17.
Because we don't have money.
Those are dependents. Yes, those need to depend. So we have 49 point something % of the population that can effectively do something. And then also looking at the East African integration, the market space. It's now for us to sell. Now, the government has to put in enough resources in, first of all, building platforms that can accept to partner with us. We have investors that have come to the country. But you see, if we only concentrate within the urban setting and then leave out the other communities or other areas that we should be able to touch and pull the value, we have a lot of sections that we have the mineral sector, we have the agriculture, we have and agriculture is wide. We have animal production, we have the fish and so on. So government should see how to put resources and entice the people, not even entice, but convince or rather be at the front line of trying to sell this idea to the population, so the population can accept the initiatives government is doing. But that alone comes from the aspect of patriotism.
Okay. Mr. Okos,
Patriotism.
there is something I don't see reflected here, and that is how people are doing in terms of, how
human development indexes.
Yes.
Yes.
Because you're asking questions about what people possess and stuff like that. No. So we don't know. Why I'm asking, would want to know, for example, how many people now, in terms of percentage, are below the poverty line. I don't see that reflected anywhere.
Yeah. Now this is, like I said earlier, this is a preliminary finding. We are still doing further analysis, and we shall provide that information in the provisional report, which will come in September.
But for now, what do we know? Before, of course, you preempt.
No, I can't even assume, because with science you have to wait and wait on the right figure. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Tim.
Yes. So we as a government right now, since we have the right figures, and I still attribute credit to UBOs, first of all, for digitalizing this initiative, being, I think, the second country to do it. I don't think Kenya did it, although Kenya has a little higher ratios when it comes to technology and innovation. They're a bit quick and faster in how they do their things. So, but for Uganda, being able to adopt digitalizing this, and then also they are going to see how to spread this to Electoral Commission, and then NIRA in doing a mass recruitment for people, national identification and so on. I believe something that should be able to change us from the other thinking of doing things in analog rather to doing things in the digital. Now the theme of technology, innovation, science. Of course, you know, as a person that is subscribed to government and NRM as a party, of course, the attributes come back to us.
Okay. As we get out of here, this
yes.
is why I cannot leave without mentioning it. Of course, there has always been the case, women being more than men, this time around by more than 1 million. What does this mean to our country?
First of all, before my brother comes, let me touch that very aspect. We have seen the ratio. I was trying to look at it from here. From I don't want to go further. Just from 1980, we had the men at 6.3, 6.4. We had the same 8 point. That's 1991, 8.2, 8.5. So the growth keeps improving. And even when you look at 2022, again the ladies were high, the female. Then again you look at 2014, we had 17.1, and then the females 17.6. Now here, it is at 1%, the difference. So this shows you that it's quite a challenge having an economy that has a lot of the females than men. Of course, you see, because you see, mostly it is the men that are more into the productivity and then, you know, propelling the economies. But of late, we have seen Uganda being one among the countries or nations that has more enterprising women, or the females. The ladies are more enterprising, they're into, you know, very many aspects of businesses and running this. And I think also to government, I don't want to give it to. It's not an assignment for UBOs. UBOs has given us the data. Now to government, I think it should be our role to also not forget the boy child. There's been a lot of focus on the girl child, and also the idea of having, is it the 1.5% for them, you know, university entries and so on. That has left a certain criteria of men that are rather not so independent in making decisions. And now the ladies are more projected at doing things that the male should do at a certain age. So I think government should put more focus also on the boy child. They should not abandon the boys and think that, you know, as a man, it's your responsibility to be who you want. No, there should be mentorship and leadership.
Yes.
Your last words as we get out of here.
I think my brother.
Or there's something else you have left out.
I think my brother Tim has already answered that very well in terms of the difference in the population size. But for me, I want to just say something about the population growth rate.
Yes.
In the previous census, or previously, we've been having a population growth rate of 3.2 children per household or per mother. But now in this census, we are seeing a figure of 2.9. I want the population and the viewers to know that why is the number of children reducing in our setting. One, the rate of survival of children now is higher than before because of the various health policies, immunization and so on. But also secondly, the mindset, people are now opting to have fewer children that they can manage to educate, to provide for all the necessary services, and therefore they are opting for lesser children. But the other thing that I think is also contributing to now this population growth rate coming down is the cause of the value that now people attach to education. We have seen more girl child with all that emphasis my brother talked about. Take your girl child to school. Take a girl. Now we have ladies who are PhD holders. They take long at school. By the time they get out of school, they are busy with their jobs. So someone produces only 2 children,
or even one.
Oh, even one, and that's it.
And that's not good for our country, is it?
So yes. No, I don't know whether it is good or bad.
No, but even if you have to use the example of Japan, Japan has a bigger percentage of the elderly. People over 60 and above is higher, is almost 70%.
Yeah, it is actually 70%.
So that's because they have been focusing more on it.
So that means that I think soon our number of children will reduce going forward in the future. I don't know when that will happen, because I think we shall be seeing now more children being born and maybe more older population also coming up. But overall, my last word to the viewers is that, first of all, I want to thank BTM TV for giving us the opportunity as the Bureau to digest further the findings of the census. I want to thank my brother Otim for really giving his expert opinion into this matter.
Thank you.
He has actually showcased the country that yes, UBOs did a good job.
Thank you.
It is now the onus is on to us, the users. How we use it, that's another business.
That's true.
And I want to thank you, my good moderator, Mr. Muwonge.
Thank you.
You have done us a good job. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Koth. Thank you so much, Mr. Otim. Lady Akona Pesa. Thank you so much, our dear viewers. We've come to the end of this edition of the dialogue. My name is Edirisa Muwonge. Continue enjoying our subsequent programs. Till we meet again, goodbye for now. See you then.